So it should be recording now. And so I myself actually studied abroad twice. I studied the first time actually in high school, and I went to Mexico for an entire summer. And then when I came to NDSU, I also studied abroad on one of our shorter term faculty-led global seminar programs. And so I've always loved to travel. So when I was able to get this position, it was kind of like a perfect fit for me. I typically work in the office as advising students on programs, whether they're wanting to go like internationally or domestically. And then I also oversee the entire scholarship application process. And so students will often come to me if they have questions about specific scholarships that are being offered, or if they have questions about like applying to scholarships and things like that. So that's a little bit about me. We also have Lexi here from the Center for Writers. She's going to be doing a little presentation on how to write really awesome essays that will get you all the scholarships. So I'll pass it over to her to give you her introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Lexi. I'm the senior most undergraduate consultant at the Center for Writers. I've been there for a number of years. So I have a lot of experience helping people with writing application essays and obviously other work. The Center for Writers, just a short blurb about us. We're here for you, anything you're writing, in this case, especially application essays. These are one of my personal favorite things to work with because they're so personal, and a lot of times you hear some wild stories in these. So I really love working with these. We can help you. I want to say this now because I'm going to forget later. We can help you at any point when you're writing it, whether you haven't read the prompt or you think you have a perfect draft and you just want someone to read it. We would love to help you at any point. And because I know someone's going to want to know, we are doing both in-person and online appointments, whatever you are comfortable with. We would love to help you in whatever way serves you. You can find out how to get an appointment by going to the Center for Writers website, or just ask me personally and I can answer that later. But for now, we should get into this program so that you guys know what you're doing.
Yeah, all right. And so throughout this presentation, if you want to use the chat box to like type in any questions you have about any of the information that Lexi and I go over, we'll be sure to answer those questions at the end for you. So let's just kind of jump in here. So some of the things that we're going to be covering today, since it is a scholarship workshop, you can guess what we're going to be covering today. But there is a lot more that goes into scholarships and just choosing a program that fits with what you need. And so we'll go over program considerations. Obviously, we'll go over the types of scholarships and some of the ones that we like to highlight. And then obviously the application process we'll go through, and then we'll conclude with any questions that you all may have. So one of the first things that students often think about is just planning for their abroad experience anyways, and what are some of the things that you should think about before you even think about scholarships. And so obviously there's the financial planning piece. So consider what your budget is going to be. Consider what you want your entire program to cost, not just the tuition and the housing, but consider like the other additional costs that you might have. Like you'll need a flight to get there, most likely. You'll need to have spending money once you're there if you want to do any like traveling or just your daily costs. And then think about like what kind of savings you have. Do you have a savings account? Do you have other ways to get any financial assistance, whether that's through like a family member or like fundraising and things like that? So think about like how you're going to get the money. Obviously, you can use any existing financial aid that you already receive. So if you already receive grants, either through the state or other like private grants, loans, scholarships that you're already receiving, you can use those to help cover the costs of your study abroad experience. This is just an example budget that you'll find on our program pages on our website. And so we really like to give students the example of the entire budget, like I mentioned. So it's going to include your tuition. It's going to include the study abroad user fee. It's going to include application fees, your housing, your meals, your airfare, passport costs, like all of these costs that are associated with a study abroad program. And we like to lay out all those costs for our students so they are thinking about these other things, and it just helps them plan their budget a little bit better because they have these budget sheets out there for them that we've created. And we do tend to kind of overestimate on these costs a bit. Obviously, it fluctuates on the person. For example, personal expenses might be more or less than that, depending on quite a few things, whether you're like a heavy spender or you don't like to spend a lot of money, or the location, because some spending is going to be more in like high cost countries versus low cost countries. So these budgets are kind of tailored for the specific program. So you will see those numbers fluctuate depending on what program page you're looking at. And then kind of going into program options, you'll just want to kind of think about what your goals are and what are you wanting to get out of your study abroad program, and kind of tailor your program choice around that. So just thinking about why you want to study abroad is kind of a good place to start. Is it to get an international experience? Is it to fulfill a degree requirement? Is it because you just love traveling? Like, think about why you're wanting to study abroad, and then that will kind of guide you towards what you should be looking for in a program. Where you want to go and why you want to go there. Again, that kind of ties in with why you want to study abroad, because locations you choose locations based off of a lot of things. Maybe it's just a location you've always wanted to go to. Or maybe that specific location, you want to go to Costa Rica because they have really great biology options there. And so thinking about why you want to go to that location is helpful for you too as well. And then some other things to consider too is like, when do you want to go and how long, to help you kind of figure out when is the best time for you to go. Maybe your major is very flexible and allows you to go for like a semester or an entire year, versus maybe you're a senior and you've always wanted to study abroad, but you just can't afford to go for an entire semester. So maybe like a shorter term program is better for you, like a spring break or a summer. Costs, again, this is another thing to think about, is what does the program cost, and what does it encompass in that one program cost? Does it include just tuition and housing, or does it include tuition, housing, meals? Or so just kind of looking at what the programs that you're looking at actually include in the fees and stuff. And then, are there any scholarships? Again, there's a lot of scholarships out there for study abroad students specifically, but you don't necessarily have to apply for only study abroad scholarships. You can apply for other general academic scholarships and things too. The ones that we have on our website are just a sample of the ones that we have come across that are specifically for study abroad students. So definitely like looking at those scholarships and things like that. Eligibility requirements, just kind of self-explanatory, making sure that you meet all the eligibility requirements. Academics, so do they have classes that you want to take? What languages the course is taught in? Most of the programs do offer courses in the host language as well as in English. living arrangements, so staying with a host family versus dorms versus apartments. Just like thinking about all of these types of considerations can help you kind of nail down what program you're looking for, because there are quite a few out there and a lot of them are similar, but you really want to look at like the fine print things. And hopefully you already have these goals and what you're hoping to get out of the program in your minds, so then you can really use that to help you find a program. Don't be limited to language. Like I said, a lot of the course or a lot of the programs that we offer do, you can obviously take classes in the host language. So if you want to take classes in Spanish or French or German or whatever, you can definitely do that. Or you can take classes in English as well. So don't necessarily be limited to only English speaking countries, because those ones honestly tend to be a little bit more expensive. So if you're going to like to the UK or like Australia, New Zealand, most of Europe speaks English as well. So you should, be fine to get around. And then obviously a lot of the European countries, because of that, will offer courses in Spanish, so students can take either or. So a little bit about program options. At NDSU, we have about 4 main program options. The first one is being exchange. So for these ones, you're actually able to pay NDSU tuition to go on these programs. And so this is a huge cost savings for a lot of students, because you're still able to pay what you're normally paying for tuition here. The exchange ones are often more like the traditional study abroad experience, where you're going to a host university, you're immersed in that culture for like a semester or a year, or even some summer programs. It's more independent. So obviously you'll have support on ground from the local university, but for the most part, it's independent and just dependent on what you want to do. The second option is the direct. So these are the more popular locations. These ones, your NDSU tuition is waived for that time that you're gone, and you're just paying the direct, the host school's tuition rate. Again, it's similar to exchange, where you're immersed and it's more independent and more of the traditional study abroad. Oops. NDSU Global, these ones are our faculty-led programs. So you would be going with another NDSU faculty member, as well as a group of NDSU students. Typically, these are shorter term programs, so spring break, winter break, and summer. They are more intense because they're so short, so you're seeing and doing a lot in that amount of time. And then it is directed, so you're traveling with that group for the entirety of the program. And typically you're studying like a focused topic. So for example, we have a program going to the Galapagos for biology. So they're studying specifically biology in the Galapagos. There are a lot out there that are kind of open to any major, but you're still going to have like a focused topic, even if it's like a history and culture focus. Oops. And then finally, the affiliate is our last option. And this one, your tuition is waived again, and you're only paying one program cost to our third-party provider that we work with. And these typically, I like to compare them to like an all-inclusive type program, in that everything is kind of included in that one program price. So typically they'll include your tuition, your housing, most of the time your meals. They also have like cultural events that are already kind of incorporated into the program. And then they do a few like weekend excursions that are all included at that one cost. They're definitely the most supportive, other than NDSU Global, because each affiliate provider has a like a ground team in the locations that they offer programs that are open to students to use whenever they need to. So I wanted to give you an example of like how just the location can help save you money. Um, we have two universities that we partner with, specifically Regents in London and Konkuk University in Korea. And so you can see just the difference that going to the UK versus going to Asia makes on a budget. Um, so like Regents tuition you can see is 12,150 versus Konkuk is 4,964 because you're paying NDSU tuition. Then you have the same admin and user fee costs for both, but then again, you can see in the housing the difference in cost between Regents and Konkuk. Airfare, pretty standard, passport and visa, books, and then personal expenses. Like I had mentioned before, the personal expenses can fluctuate based off of where you're going. So obviously in higher cost countries, you're going to be spending more than in lower cost countries. And so you can see that price reflected there. So the other thing to note is sometimes, specifically with our affiliate provider programs, um, they often can be the same exact program, but they're just offered through two different means. So ISA is one of our affiliate providers, and they offer a program at Carlos in Madrid. And we also offer an exchange option where you're able to pay NDSU tuition at Carlos in Madrid. So it's literally the same exact university that you would be going to, but you can see the difference in cost. So I encourage you to, if you're looking at programs, to note that there could be some overlaps in the same location and the same university, because you can see the difference in price here again. You're paying NDSU tuition because you're going on an exchange for our program versus you're paying the program fee to ISA, which again would include all of that stuff, your housing, your meals, your excursions, your tuition and stuff like that in that 15,995. But you can see the difference in cost at the bottom. There's definitely a cost savings in this particular example. So just kind of note that when you're looking at programs, to make sure that you're seeing that there might be another of the same exact program. So inexpensive programs by type. Again, our NDSU exchange programs are probably going to be the most cost effective because as long as you meet the requirements of that school, we can send you. And we do offer a lot of different locations. These are just a few of them, to Denmark, Japan, Korea, Germany, France, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Mexico. And so as long as you meet the requirements, we can send you, which is really nice. Versus we do have ISEP exchange as well. We currently are not accepting any students on this program type right now, but we will be in the future. And so this just kind of adds another, I guess, more options for exchange, because on ISEP exchange, you're also being able to pay NDSU tuition. But the difference is that it's a competitive application process. So students typically choose a few different schools that they want to go to, and then ISEP places you at one of them. Other like kind of honorable mentions, I guess I want to talk about is direct programs. So even though you are paying the host university's tuition, our office really tries to find universities in those more expensive locations that are affordable for that area. So for example, we have a direct partnership with University of the Sunshine Coast in Australia, which, I mean, how awesome does that sound? They actually are like built on a kangaroo sanctuary, I believe. And so like how we have squirrels running around our campus, they have kangaroos hopping around theirs. So it's a really cool place. But University of Sunshine Coast is in Australia, so it's more of a higher cost country. But the University of Sunshine Coast is affordable. It's an affordable and a really good university for Australia. So we do try to do that for all of our direct programs. And then another affiliate provider that I do like to highlight is USAC. They, like, their main mission is to make study abroad accessible to everyone. So they try to make their programs as affordable as they can. And they definitely are comparable to our NDSU exchange programs. So if you aren't finding anything and you're thinking you want to go with an affiliate provider but want to keep some of the costs down, I recommend looking into USAC because they are really great partners and have some really great programs. So inexpensive programs by country, like I had mentioned before, where you go can kind of fluctuate your budget, I guess. So some of the inexpensive countries to go for a semester are definitely like the Asian countries. So China, Thailand, Korea, Central and South America are also very affordable. Costa Rica, Peru, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. Africa is very easy or very inexpensive to go to. And then there are definitely affordable countries to go to in Europe. I would say Western Europe is definitely more expensive than Eastern Europe. So we have a lot of students that really want to go to Europe, but they're looking for a low cost country. And so like Prague, we send a lot of people to Prague because it's one, a gorgeous city, and two, because it's an affordable location, very affordable location. So even if you're wanting to go to Western Europe, that's completely fine too. But Eastern Europe is more on the affordable side than Western Europe. And then inexpensive countries for the summer. Costa Rica, Germany, Brazil, Korea, Czech Republic, Poland, and Mexico are all some of the ones that I had pulled out because those programs are pretty affordable for the time that you're there in the summer. So now kind of jumping into our scholarship page on our website. This is the link here, and again, I will send this out to you, but I'll show you how to get there as well. It's just on our main page. If you go to global.ndsu.edu, this is what our front page looks like, and you just go to the little money sack here, and that's where you'll find our scholarship page. There's a lot of information on that page just about financial aid and in general, but also different like scholarships that we've come across that are kind of broken out into categories, which we'll go over a few of them in a little bit here. But I definitely recommend visiting our scholarship website because it does have a lot of good information about financial planning in general. So now we'll kind of jump into the different scholarship types because there are a few main categories just to like when you're looking for scholarships to see where your the scholarships you're looking for kind of fall into. And so these are kind of the main ones. So academic, financial need-based, location-based, diversity, area of study, program-based, scholars, and then there's a lot of scholarship like general searches out there that will pull a lot of other like national scholarships that are specifically for study abroad students. So we'll go over what kind of all of these mean in a little bit more depth. So qualifications is the scholarship. You really kind of want to like look at what the scholarship is asking you to do and what would make you eligible for this scholarship. So is the scholarship specific to a school or program? Is there like a major requirement? Like, do you have to be a specific major to be able to receive this scholarship? Is it specific to a location or a language? Is there a GPA, like a minimum GPA requirement? Do they indicate if this is for people who have high financial need? Are there any personal descriptors, so like diversity or nationality or anything like that? And I definitely recommend like apply. If you do qualify, then definitely apply, because I've talked to a lot of people who oversee scholarships, and students um, just don't apply because they think that there's a bunch of people that are already applying to this scholarship, and the likelihood of them receiving a scholarship is not very high. When in reality, sometimes nobody applies for the scholarship, and so the funds just go unused, which is kind of a shame. So I definitely recommend that if you do qualify for a scholarship, then to definitely go ahead and apply for it. So starting with academic scholarships, these ones are based on academic merit. They are looking typically for GPAs, making sure that it's, I don't know, I've usually seen like 3.0 and above. And definitely looking at well-written essays and letters of recommendation. So um, again, looking at those qualifications to see if you do have the GPA, and looking to see if the scholarship requires, a certain academic merit, I guess. Some of the ones that I like to highlight, the ones that are on our website, I'll show you. The John and Susan Wald Scholarship is pretty popular. It is for students that are going for like a summer, fall, or year, or spring, and then they must be going on a credit-bearing program and have a 3.0 GPA. The preference is given to North Dakota or Minnesota residents. And it's a decent chunk. We usually give out a couple of each, the $1,000 and the $1,500. And there's two different deadlines for it. So if you're going for spring or summer, October 1st is going to be your deadline. And I should say this is just a rule of thumb for all of our the NDSU scholarships that I'm going to go over. The deadline will be October 1st for if you're going either spring break, or summer. And then March 1st if you're going summer, the following fall, or the following academic year. So actually, if you're going on a summer program, you have two different opportunities to apply for the scholarships, the NDSU scholarships. So just kind of note that. The Rotary Scholarship is another big one. This one is more offered through the community and not NDSU necessarily. So your eligibility, you have to be an undergraduate, graduate student, as well as qualified professionals pursuing a vocational study. And it does give you like quite a bit of money. I've never worked with anyone to have this scholarship, but I know people before me have gotten it, and it pretty much just pays for a program. So if you were to get this scholarship, you could actually just, have it all go towards your study abroad program, and it would basically cover the cost of it. It does take a bit more planning and time, so you'll want to start early in advance for this one. And then typically when you return to, there's like a little project that you'll do to share to the Rotary group in town here. And then that's pretty much it for that. So if you know that you're going to be going at some point in the future, this one's a good one too, because it has that like advanced start date that you should be thinking about it. So going to the financial need-based scholarships, these ones obviously are based on the student's financial need. It may require you to be eligible for the Pell Grant, which you should know if you're eligible for the Pell Grant. If you take out FAFSA aid, then it would be looped into your FAFSA aid. And then you may be able to, or you may need to like demonstrate the need in other ways. So like when I read scholarships, if someone writes about their financial need, then I would classify that as, I would take that into consideration. So sometimes it doesn't specifically pertain to like grants or FAFSA or anything like that. You might just have to talk about it in your essay so that the reader understands that. And then they may also look at academics and essays and references, not always, but the ones that we offer in our office, we definitely look at the academics, essays, and references. One of my favorite ones is the Miles Scholarship. So this actually is a full like airline tickets, which when you're studying abroad, that's usually one of the more high cost things that you wouldn't normally be paying for in a typical semester here. And so the Miles Scholarship is made possible by NDSU faculty and staff on campus donating their duplicate Delta miles to this scholarship. And so then we can give this scholarship out to students. So it's a really neat program. Again, it's financial need based and pretty much any year or any time frame that you're going abroad, you can use it for. And then it has to be on a credit bearing program. And again, the deadlines are October 1st to March 1st. Then we do have what's called just like the NDSU Study Abroad Scholarships, which is just one scholarship that we named very, very generally, I guess. So this one is just pretty typical. It is financial need preference, 2.75 GPA, credit bearing program, and kind of all of the same stuff. So one thing I didn't mention is the nice thing about the NDSU scholarships is that we have one scholarship application. So you only have to write one essay, get the letter of recommendations once, and basically do the entire application just once, because within the application you can actually check the boxes of all of the ones you want that one scholarship to go to. So it makes it easier, so you don't have to like do a bunch of this, a bunch of applications. You can just do the one. The Gilman is a pretty big one as well. It's through the government. It's a government grant. So you have to be a US citizen and you have to be going on a program that's at least 4 weeks. Can't be in a travel warning country, and you can get up to $5,000. This one is good if anyone is interested in working for the federal government at some point after their time here at NDSU, because I believe one of the things that kind of gives you a leg up in trying to apply to those jobs, they'll look and see that you received this Gilman scholarship, and that's already like a leg up for you, I guess, when you're applying for those types of positions. Any of the governmental ones. So the Gilman, the Boren, I don't talk about on here, but that's another one. And then the next one that I'm going to talk about, I believe. Oh, I did talk about Boren. So yeah, again, this one is through the federal government. So if you're interested in working in underrepresented areas, and I believe it's open to any major, so you can be majoring in anything. And then there is like this service component that you'd actually be getting like a hands-on experience with the federal government as part of the scholarship. But you can see it's quite a bit amount, $20,000. So these ones definitely apply for if you are interested in working in government. The Gilman too, I believe you have to be Pell Grant eligible. So if you do receive the Pell Grant, we have had students get the Gilman actually very recently. So I would definitely recommend applying for that one too if you do if you are Pell Grant eligible. And then the final one that's offered through the federal government is actually a fully funded language intensive language program. It's 7 to 10 weeks during the summer, and the I guess the scholarship is the program, like it's fully funded, so you wouldn't pay for any of the cost of the program. So if you're interested in looking or in learning a new language, these are typically non-traditional languages, so they're not going to have like Spanish, French, German. They're going to have like Mandarin and Hindi and Swahili and things like that. So if you've always been fascinated with learning languages and things like that, this is a great program because it's fully funded and you get like an intensive language. Like you are pretty advanced level by the time you're done with this program. So it's definitely a really cool program. We've also had students get this um, recently too, and they've really loved the experience. So if you're interested in languages, this is a great one too. If there's any art majors here, this one is for art majors, and this one again is almost fully funded with that $3,500. So you can just contact Michael Strand if you want more information on how to apply for that one. But we have had students do that one in the recent past as well. Actually, I think there was supposed to be a couple that were supposed to go this past summer, but were unable to go due to COVID. But if you're an art major, this is a cool one. You study art basically at this university in Italy, which is in a really beautiful part of the country. And so you study art there and do like a cumulative project on a certain topic of your choice, and you basically get it fully funded for you. So diversity scholarships. So I think it's important to first define what like diversity means, at least in the realm of higher education and study abroad. And so diversity goes beyond like ethnicity. It's if you're a first generation college student, that's considered diversity. If you're from low socioeconomic status, obviously ethnic minority. If you're younger or older than the average college student, a student with a disability, a student who's a member of the LGBTQA community, STEM majors actually, because there's just not as many STEM majors that go abroad. Males too. Most of the students who go abroad are females, about 65% students who go abroad are female. So males are considered diverse. Studying outside of Western Europe, Australia, or New Zealand, so like going to those off the beaten path locations, that's not as common in study abroad, or just going to a less common language such as Basque or Vietnamese. So there's a lot of different things that would classify you as a diverse person in the realm of study abroad, because it's just these specific indicators are not as common in study abroad, so therefore that makes you diverse. Even being a student at NDSU, because technically North Dakota is an underrepresented state for study abroad, so just being a North Dakota resident or going to NDSU can also help you get scholarships as well. These are just some of, well, this is like the big company, or not company, but like big website for diversity abroad scholarships. And so it's literally just diversityabroad.com. And there's a lot of different scholarships. They have like a little search function there, so you can kind of narrow it down based on what you're looking for. So if you fall into one of those demographics that we just mentioned, then definitely look at the diversity abroad scholarships, because they have quite a few out there for students to apply to. So program-based or area of study scholarships, there's going to be some out there that are going to require a specific major to be able to be eligible for the scholarship. So if there's any language majors here, these ones are all through the NDSU Modern Languages Department. And so they're just for NDSU students that are language majors, whether that's Spanish or French. So definitely look at those. I know that language majors do need to study abroad for at least 14 weeks. So if you are a language major, at some point you will be studying abroad. And so it'd be a good idea to take a look at these scholarships too, because there's going to be a smaller pool of applicants.
I have a question before you continue.
Mhm.
For international students, what scholarships can an international student apply?
Sure. International students can apply to any scholarships that are offered. None of them, I mean, other than maybe like the John and Susan Wald, but even then, we've given that scholarship to international students as well. So there's none that are specifically for international students, so you can feel free to apply to any of them. You'll just want to make sure, like specifically for the ones that I had mentioned about the US government, you do have to be a US citizen to get those scholarships, but most of the other ones don't require any specific citizenship to be able to apply. So you can feel free to apply to any of them. So the next one that we have here is an architecture scholarship. So if you are an architecture student, you by now probably know that they have their spring semester of their 4th year program where they all go to Belgium for 3 months to study architecture in Europe. And so this one is designed specifically for architecture students, whether or not they go on that program or not. It's not specifically for that program, but I know we get a lot of architecture students that go on that program, and that's typically the one they go on. So this one is for architecture majors specifically. And then we do have one through the College of Business. So if you are a COB student, then this one is specifically for you. In the past, they have given it to female business majors, but I don't know if that's still their criteria or not, or if it's just business, like if you just have to be a business major or not. But that one is also available for students specifically who are studying abroad. So you'd only be applying with other NDSU business majors. And then CAFSNR, I'm not going to say the entire name, but it's our ag school. So if you're under that, if you fall under that college, then definitely apply for this one, because a lot of students, we don't get as many students from this college. So it's a good one to apply for because, again, the pool is a bit smaller. And then I think this is the last one, yes. So this one is new, and I do like to highlight this one because it's very unique and it's a little different than all of our other scholarships, because you can keep getting this scholarship as long as you reapply for it each year for up to $2,000. And so it's students that are planning to do our secondary majors of either international studies or global business major. So the secondary majors, basically you tack on to your primary major. So for example, if you were studying marketing, then and you want to do the global business secondary major, it's kind of internationalizing that marketing major. And so both the international studies and global business majors do require a study abroad component. And so you can use the scholarship not only for that, but also for your other 4 years, or your other 3 years, I guess, to help cover the cost just of like your normal tuition, I guess. So it's really cool. It's pretty new. So I definitely recommend, if you are at all interested in doing one of our secondary majors, to definitely look at this scholarship more closely. And again, all of this information I took from our website. So if you ever want to find it again, all you have to do is just go to that money bag and go down to the bottom and you'll see all of these scholarships there. And then finally, we do have our affiliate providers. So if you are going on an affiliate provider program, these are our third party companies that we work with. They also offer their own. So you can not only apply to the ones that are offered through NDSU or other national ones, but you can also apply to the affiliate provider specific ones. So that's something to look into as well. Scholarship searches, these are just a few of the ones that we highlight that if you were to follow these links, you can kind of look at a bunch of other ones that are out there that are kind of not necessarily national ones, but not necessarily ones through schools. They're just other like companies that offer study abroad scholarships. So all of these will just produce more options, I guess, for you. So the scholarship application, so the actual application process, how do I submit the best application possible? So starting out, you want to look through obviously all of the scholarship options. And you'll want to, again, look at the eligibility requirements to make sure that you meet them. You'll definitely want to look at the due dates and plan accordingly, because you definitely don't want to be submitting your application or even starting your application like the day before it's due. You want to give it a few days to make sure that everything is good and it's gone through. You want to make sure that you know what exactly you need to collect for the application to submit with it. So oftentimes it's more than just an essay. Oftentimes you'll have to do an essay and maybe like an application, just like outlining your demographics and your program and things like that. Sometimes you'll have to submit either an unofficial transcript or an official transcript. And so unofficial transcript obviously is pretty easy. You can just go on Campus Connection and print it off, but an official transcript does take a bit more time to get that. So you'll just want to plan for that as well. And then you need to know exactly what you need to do, like what components are you responsible for, and what are the components that others are responsible for. So like if you need to get a recommendation or something like that, knowing what those things are ahead of time so you can plan accordingly. And again, planning early is a great thing to do, because then it gives you time to ask for those letter of recommendations, to make sure it gives the person that you're asking enough time to write one for you and write a good one for you. Ordering transcripts, again, official transcripts, I would say take about 2 to 3 days to receive. So you'll definitely want to make sure you order those if the application requires it, because some of them just allow you to do an unofficial transcript and it's fine. But you'll want to make sure you know which you need if you need one, unofficial versus official. And then you'll want to make sure you're outlining what your essay is going to look like based off of what the application is asking you to do, what questions they're asking you to answer. Little bit more on letters of recommendation. You'll want to think about who you're going to ask, because you want to make sure that the person is going to, speak highly of you and say good things. And so ideally the recommender should know you pretty well. They should be able to write about your academic potential. So whether that's a professor that you have now or at a previous university you've been to, or even in high school. Asking professors / your teachers are good options because they're definitely able to talk about your academic potential. Obviously, you'd want them to speak highly of you, right? Because you're looking to get a scholarship, so you want it to be a positive recommendation. And then just knowing the person well enough to know if they'll actually submit a recommendation. Because some professors are a little harder to get a hold of and a little harder to track down to actually get the recommendation from them. So you'll just want to make sure that you are checking in with them, just to make sure that they're doing what they need to do to get that in for you. And then be clear of what, where, and when. So you definitely want to let your recommender know what exactly they should be writing about. So talking a little bit about your study abroad program, or like your ideal program that you're trying to find and go for. Where does it need to be submitted? Do they need to submit it back to you and then you upload it? Or is it something that they either need to submit electronically to a certain place, or do they need to send it in via like mail? And so just letting them know where they need to send that and then when they need to have it done by. So I recommend giving them a bit more time than when the actual deadline is. So if your deadline is October 1st, I would say, letting them know that they should have it done at least like 3 to 5 days before the actual application is due, to make sure that there's no like technical issues or things like that. If they have to mail it in, then I would definitely recommend you give them at least 2 to 3 weeks before the deadline happens, so that they can get that in with plenty of time. And if mail is slow or what have you, then there's plenty of time for it to get there before the deadline passes. So ordering an official transcript, if you do need to have an official transcript for your application, like I said, you can do it online. So you can either order an official one or print off an unofficial one through Campus Connection on the student page, academic records, official transcript request. And that will give you the option to either pick it up at our registration office, which is usually processed quicker than if you were to have it delivered to a specified address. So just know that those are kind of your options for getting an unofficial for getting an official. Let's see here. So when you're ordering one, again, you just want to know like what the timing is going to be for that, so you have enough time to get it. You can't actually order an official transcript if you have any balances on your account. So you want to make sure those are paid off before you try to request a transcript, because you won't be able to. And then, yeah, again, just making sure that you know what type. If you can use an unofficial transcript, obviously that's way easier than having to order an official one. So just make sure you know if you're able to use an unofficial one to like save all of the hassle from trying to order one. And I believe ordering an official transcript costs like $6. It might have gone up a bit, but it definitely has a small fee attached to it, versus an unofficial one is just free. You just have to print it off. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Lexi. And Lexi, I don't think you have the ability to click forward or anything like that. So just let me know when you want me to proceed on.
Yeah, that'll be just fine. Just as I say the next step, it'd be perfect time to switch it over because we've got one step per slide. So I tried to keep this pretty easy for everyone. These are all things that should apply to any type of application essay that you're writing, even if it's not for a scholarship. But I also had scholarships in mind when I wrote up these steps for you guys. So the first step, and it sounds really basic and simplistic, but is read everything. A lot of people skip this step and wind up with an essay that isn't what the scholarship or program is looking for, and then they have to go back and completely rewrite it and start from scratch. So avoid that and just read everything they give you. Read the essay prompt, read the length expectations, read accompanying documents, information on who's giving the scholarship. Read anything that could potentially be related. And it's really important that you read the prompts for the essays themselves, because there's different types of questions they could be asking. Sometimes they'll ask you for a specific answer to a question, and sometimes they'll just ask you for a personal statement. And understanding what they ask of you is going to be super important, because it'll inform how you write your paper, and it'll alter everything from your word choice to the content you have. The next step is going to be brainstorming and drafting. I wrote these as the same step because everybody's writing process is different, and that's absolutely okay. Some people will brainstorm first and then outline and then draft. Some people just spin everything onto a draft and then worry about how it's organized. It's okay. Just know your writing style and know how you draft, and make yourself a working draft. Organize it, reorganize it, get it to a point where you're feeling a little more confident with it, and make sure that you personalize it. You really want to stand out, and to do that, you need to say what's specific to you and your experiences. Tell us stories. Point out what's unique about you and what makes you uniquely positioned for the experience that you're applying for. The third step is going to be to revise. I know we like to skip this step because I've turned in papers and essays that I haven't revised, but it always comes back to bite you. Remember that there's a lot on the line for these. Some of these scholarships are getting you $20,000. So don't skip this step. And there's a lot of things you can do to revise. Ones that I really want to specifically point out is, first off, eliminate generalizations. Remember, we want this to be personal. So anything that you could cut and paste from someone else's application or onto someone else's application, cut it. Don't say, I love to travel, tell me about your specific experiences. You also want to cut irrelevant statements. Some of them are pretty clear that they don't make sense or they don't relate, but sometimes the flow of logic is just unclear. So make sure you're keeping everything logical and related to what you're talking about. And then the last thing is, you always want to cut controversy. Maybe God does want you to have this scholarship, but not only does it sound a little conceited to say that, everyone has the same beliefs as you, and this could really offend somebody if you say something like that. So you want to keep it as non-controversial as possible because of the wide array of audiences that you could have. That being said, our next step is to consider your audience. Who's going to be reading your essay? What do they stand for? What do they already know about what you're talking about? Sometimes you're going to know more answers to this, and sometimes you're going to know less, and that's okay. The less you know, the more general you have to write. The more you know, the more specifically and detailed you can write towards that audience. Is this going to be read by one person, or is it going to be read by a panel of people? Is this only one component of your application, or is it one of many? Keep in mind all those things that could affect what your audience is going to think about it, because remember, they're the ones who decide whether or not you get your scholarship or into your program, whatever you're applying for. Our fifth step is to consider your voice. In application essays, we actually get to talk in the first person. You can say I and talk about yourself all you want. It'd actually be kind of weird if you talked about yourself in the third person and said, Lexi is applying for this scholarship. Don't do that. You sound odd and will probably get rejected. But also remember that this is still an essay and you want to be semi-formal. You can use more relaxed language, but don't use slang. Don't say bro. Don't call yourself the goat. Pretend you're having a somewhat casual conversation with a stranger in a more professional environment, and you should have the voice pretty much down. And then your last step for the writing process is to get guidance. This, I cannot stress how important this is. You can come to the Center for Writers and talk to one of us here. You could ask a friend, you could ask a teacher, a parent, someone you trust in your life to read through your essay and to be honest with you. Honesty is the important key, which is why I actually really recommend going to someone who you aren't that close to. For example, one of us at the Center for Writers. a lot of times getting guidance is scattered throughout your writing process, but you also want this to be one of the last steps you do, because we've all had unique experiences in our lives. Different eyes catch different things. So this also helps you prepare your essay for the variable audiences that it could ultimately reach. And you'll want to make the changes that are suggested, but ultimately only if you agree with them. And this is also a really important piece. You'll get a lot of advice that you might not agree with. And as long as you can justify why you are keeping it, how you are keeping it, you are welcome to keep it how it is, because it's your essay. In the end, you are the one applying for this scholarship, and it needs to be your essay. So then the next step would be submitting, which Natasha is going to talk to you guys about. I just wanted to say that I encourage you guys to keep your essays for future use, because a lot of times you can use part or even sometimes all of your essay for another application. So if you're applying for 10 different scholarships and all of them require an application essay, you can cross-use a lot of your content. Just make sure you rethink your voice, your audience, and the details of the scholarship. And that's what I've got for you guys.
Perfect. Thanks, Lexi. So yeah, we're just gonna finish up here quick with submitting. Obviously, you're gonna want to submit all of your hard work that you've done. And again, you'll want to do it like 3 to 7 days before the deadline to make sure that everything is good and received. So following up with your references as needed. Do you have your transcripts and all of those things that you need to submit ready so you can do that? And then I recommend not submitting at the last minute, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Technology doesn't always work, and then you're panicking at the last minute to submit it. So definitely give yourself and your references enough time so it's not down to the wire like that. And then last but not least, if you were to receive a scholarship, what should you do? You want to make sure that you know how you're going to receive it. Are they going to send it to you via check? Are they just going to direct deposit it into your Campus Connection account? Just knowing when and how that's going to be dispersed to you. And then financial planning and timing, just knowing what you're able to use your scholarship on, because there are early costs and then there are going to be term costs. So things that you'll pay for ahead of time, and then things that you're actually going to be paying for during that semester. And then just knowing if your program starts before regular financial aid disbursement, and just working with our financial aid office, but then also the financial people of the program you're going to. And then you'll definitely want to make sure that you send a follow-up. It's just nice to say thank you to those who helped you get that scholarship. So your references, as well as whoever was giving out the actual scholarship, sending them just a thank you email or a card or something like that. Just kind of shows that you really appreciate getting the scholarship, and then also their help in getting it. So that's all we basically have. I'll do one last plug. We do have Get Started sessions. They're virtual ones daily in our office. So you can just go to the Get Started session to learn more about general program options. There's a peer mentor that will go through kind of that information. And it's just a good place to stop by and get more information about study abroad in general. And then again, if you go to our website, you can see a full list of all of the ones that we offer. So with that, I know we're a little bit over, but if you have any questions, we can answer those now, either for Lexi or I.
It looks like there's a question in the chat. Is NDSU Exchange still going on this year and or next year?
Good question. Yes. So far, it is still an option. We just kind of have to play it by ear, because obviously COVID is just continuing to change. So if it ever becomes unsafe for students to go, then we would have to cancel spring programs. But as of now, unless there's like a restriction or anything like that on the country, we can still send students next spring or this coming spring, I guess. So, any others? Okay, I think I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Thank you all for coming. Like I said, I will send out this recording. And so if you ever want to look back on it, feel free to do so. Otherwise, you can just shoot me an email. My email is right there. And then obviously the Center for Writers email is there too if you have questions about setting up an appointment or things like that. So thank you all again. I hope you have a good rest of your day and good rest of your week.
I have a question, quick, just kind of like singular question, just about one of the specific, hold on, all right, programs. So there was a, like, like I'm interested in, studying abroad in like Denmark, right? But I only saw on the website that there was like the School of Business program.
Sure.
Are there more programs through like the ND? Because like that was the only one I could find through NDSU's website, I guess. Where else would I look, I suppose?
Yeah, so so there are other affiliate providers might offer programs to Denmark specifically. We work with a handful of providers, but there's definitely other providers out there as well. So if you were to find another affiliate provider that goes to Denmark specifically, you can still go on that program even though we're not affiliated with it. So
Sure. So then how does that work, like credit wise and, scholarships? How does that all kind of play together?
sure. So if you were to go on another affiliate provider program, you would still get your scholarships and your financial aid dispersed through your campus connection like normal.
Okay.
So it'd all still be handled through there. And then basically what would happen is your financial aid is dispersed and your scholarships are dispersed into your campus connection. It would pay off any balances that are already in there. But since you're not paying tuition, because remember your tuition is waived on anything but an exchange program, it wouldn't be paying off very much. And then it would essentially just give you a big refund check that you can then pay directly that program provider.
Okay. So like if I had like, let's say like a full tuition scholarship, right? Which I think is about, 9,000 or something along those lines. I could use that to help pay for the study abroad.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
So there are certain scholarships that have stipulations, I guess. So there are like the presidential scholarship, the provost scholarship. There's like a handful of them. They're on our website too, listed. That you can only use to go on exchange programs because those ones specifically go towards tuition. So like any sort of tuition waiver type scholarship, you want to go on a program where you're paying NDSU tuition to be able to use it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you can just defer it for that semester or the period of time that you're gone, and then it'll just pick back up again.
Okay.